Welcome to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette
and Sister Sophia.
Our show is designed to help you learn more about emotional, mental, and spiritual health.
Let's talk. Welcome to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. This show is designed to provide wise counsel for your emotional, mental, and spiritual health concerns. For those of you who are just joining us, I am Sophia Avery, a Christian therapist and owner of Christian Talk Therapy, located in Ballackinwood, right outside of Philadelphia.
And I am Dr. Suzette Stokes-Sims, and I'm a licensed psychologist and the owner and director of Dayspring Counseling Services. And Dayspring is located in Ballackinwood, Exton, and Paoli. And we are seasoned professionals in the counseling field. What that means is that we are practicing clinicians, and we're not just people that are on the radio giving advice. We are people who do this for a living, and we are here to try to help you. And we are using this radio show as a means to reach the community with information that will help you enjoy healthier, happier relationships with others, and to help you grow and mature in your faith.
Exactly. And if you are listening to us online, please feel free to log into Facebook at facebook.com/Philly Talk Show and post your comments. We'll check them throughout the show. If we're not able to mention your comment online, we will definitely get back to you at the end of the show. Also, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at phillytalkshow@yahoo.com. phillytalkshow@yahoo.com.
And give us a call. Today we are talking about emotional eating. We're going to be talking about what is it and why do we do it and what does God say about it and what can we do about it. Our call-in number is 610-277-9449, 610-277-9449. And if you're in Jersey and Delaware, you can reach us at 1-800-887-9627. That's 1-800-887-9627. Give us a call and let us know if you struggle with emotional eating. Do you have times that you use food as a way to help you manage your emotions and cope with your emotions? Give us a call and let us know. Also, if you maybe have struggled with that in the past and have overcome it, share with our listeners how it is that you have overcome emotional eating. 610-277-9449 or 1-800-887-9627. We really want to hear from you.
All right. So, Dr. Suzette, exactly what is emotional eating?
Well, emotional eating is defined as food consumption that occurs in response to various emotional states or cues. Basically, what it means is that when you're feeling something internally, you use food as a way to deal with it and to cope with it. So different feelings could be boredom, loneliness, stress, depression, anxiety. It could even be positive emotions like excitement or a feeling of pride. Sometimes we use food as a way to just help us cope with what we're feeling.
Sounds like self-medicating. Do we use food to self-medicate? And when we talk about self-medicating, you think of anything you use to make you feel better or to make you feel happy or to make you forget about whatever you're feeling. And I must say, I think I have done that and probably still do from time to time. Okay, I admitted it.
I think we all do that. We all sometimes in our lives have struggled with, I am not feeling good, and I know that particular food is going to make me feel better. And a lot of it is related to just the inability to tolerate distress. We get into this place where we're feeling so overwhelmed by this feeling, and because we can't tolerate it, we need a way to decrease it. We need a way to get rid of it, and food, a lot of times, is the way that we do that.
Definitely. And when we think about dealing with our stress, the concept of self-soothing comes into play. And self-soothing is kind of a coping mechanism we learned as infants, how to soothe yourself. So if you think of a baby in a crib, some kids, when they wake up, they'll cry for a minute, but then they just rock themselves, or they'll play with their toes, or they know sooner or later somebody's going to come and bring them some food to eat, bring them a bottle or pick them up. So they learn to self-soothe by just doing whatever they want to do because they know that the comfort is coming. I think many of us as infants learn to self-soothe with food. You get upset and your mom gives you a bottle. When you get a little older, you get upset and your mom might give you a lollipop. You get a little older, you get upset, your mom might take you to McDonald's. And we learn that food is something that comforts us. Because certainly in our society, we celebrate with food. Food is a reward. Food is just about everything, and definitely it is comforting. There are comfort foods that are known to soothe us.
Right, yeah. So as you're describing that, then, what's clear is that it's not about the food.
Right.
It is really about how do you soothe those places within yourself to help you feel better and to help you cope. And actually, there's actually a lot of research out there about emotional eating, and there's one study that I came upon which was really interesting, and they did find, and this is back in 2003, they found that spiritual well-being was related to emotional eating. So what they found is that in college women, if a person had a lower sense of spiritual well-being, a lower spirituality, let's say, it was related to higher levels of emotional eating, which meant that they would use food as a way to cope with their emotions more often than women who had more spirituality. And I thought that was really interesting, that finally the lay world is putting together the fact that spirituality and one's relationship with God, or the way they think about God, is actually tied to how it is we use food in our lives and how it is that we cope with different stressors in our lives.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that even with me, myself, and I, when I am feeling particularly, happy in the Lord and have my word I'm standing on and feeling, walking in faith and not by sight, that I would be less inclined to self-medicate or emotional eat. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. You're right. And when I'm feeling like I need to soothe myself, it is when I'm feeling like, when is this going to happen? Why did this happen to me? Where is God? It is during those times, I think, that I emotionally eat. So I agree.
So you find when you are more connected to your spirituality and your relationship with God, that for you personally, that you notice that you do use food more often than when you're filled up and you have, I guess, spiritually nourished yourself, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, like nourishing your soul. When you feel nourished in your soul, you're less likely to reach for food as a way to nourish yourself.
Right, or comfort. Mm-hmm. I'd say more comfort. Yeah, mm-hmm. I'd say so. Okay. So if you're listening and you want to call in to talk about your bout with spiritual eating, with emotional eating, give us a call at 610-277-9449. In New Jersey and Delaware or anywhere else, 1-800-887-9627. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia.
So how do people know whether or not they're doing it? How do they know that they are eating emotionally? Well, these are some different ways that you can tell whether or not you are an emotional eater. Are you chewing and munching on things that make you feel good? I think most of us do. So you might not, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're using food to soothe yourself. But do your cravings start up when you experience an emotion? When you feel depressed about something or disappointed, do you then start having these cravings like, and start thinking about food? Do you find yourself searching for something and not really finding anything that satisfies you? You're like, oh, there's just nothing here and nothing makes me feel better. Do you keep eating to keep from being bored? Do you ever find yourself and you're watching TV and you had just eaten dinner and then you're like, oh, I think I want something else? Are you eating food you don't like, even because it's there? Do you tend to overeat at important or stressful events? Do you experience every emotion as hunger? Do you find yourself saying you're hungry often and utilizing food? Do you eat immediately after a stressful event or when you're nervous? So these are just some different ways to determine or to help you at least think about how are you using food in your life. And if you do find that you tend to self-soothe using food, well, counseling can really help you with that. At Dayspring Counseling Services, we have therapists that, and I know myself, just as a psychologist, I work with a lot of people who struggle with this very thing of knowing that that's what's happening and not really being able to figure out how to comfort themselves. And so if you guys are struggling with something like this and you have a specific situation that you need some help with, call Sister Sophia and I and let us know. We can help you out with it. 610-277-9449. That's 610-277-9449. Or in Jersey and Delaware, 1-800-887-9627. That's 1-800-887-9627. So what do you think about some of those things, Sophia? Like just different ways to tell whether or not you, what do you think are some ways that people can determine whether or not they use food as a coping skill?
Well, I think if you look forward to it, like I've talked to people in the past who would, after a long day of work, pretty much all they could think about is what am I going to go home and eat. And the food was like the only thing they look forward to during the day. What am I going to eat? And I think at that point you realize that the food is serving some other purpose. It's not simply for nourishment. It's comfort. It's a distraction. It provides other emotions, or it provides soothing and other things to you other than just nourishment. So I think when we notice that what I'm going to eat is the most exciting thing we have to look for during the day, that's when we get into the possibility that we might be emotional eating. And when I think about emotional eating also, it's almost like eating your emotions. So if I'm sad, then, I go get chocolate ice cream. If I am depressed or lonely, I might get chocolate ice cream and donuts. So sugar or carbohydrates typically are foods that are used to self-soothe. And they're easily accessible. And, kind of don't want to give the impression that all eating is emotional eating. Definitely, you may have a craving for things, or you may just like eating them, but sometimes the things that we like eating may be masking our true emotions that are happening inside of us. For example, I was doing a diet that was pretty close to fasting, and I was loved it and advised a lot of people to do it. And some of the people that I asked to do it couldn't do it because it removed their emotional. They were not able to soothe themselves any other way. They didn't have any other coping mechanism in place. So removing those joyful foods for them was overwhelming. So I think we have to be aware of the fact that food is not meant to be our comfort. And if it is, then we have to look at what we're doing and why. And, I have a list of feeling words I'll post on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Philly Talk Show. I will post a list of feeling words. And that might be something to consider. If you think you might be an emotional eater, then every time you pick up something that is not on your list of things to eat for the day, maybe you can look down the list of feeling words to determine if you are feeling something that you're trying to eat away.
Well, those are some really good points, pairing together feelings with particular foods. And you're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia here on Gospel Highway 11. And after this short break, we will return to talk more about emotional eating, why we do it, and what does God say about it. We'll be right back. Do you have a child or relative preparing for their junior or senior prom this year? If so, wouldn't you like to have photos that would last a lifetime of that event? while you're shopping for your daughter's dress and shoes or your son's suit, while you're preparing the menu and booking their limo reservations, why not consider having a professional photographer photograph that special day? With TrueVine Photography's pre-prom packages, you'll be able to recall that day weeks, months, and even years from now with one of their professional hardback photo albums. But be sure to order more than one so you'll be able to one day hand that over to your child. Please contact Sean Sims with TrueVine Photography at 610-428-6469. That's 610-428-6469. Or contact him at truevinephoto.com. Again, truevinephoto.com to reserve your date. Please hurry, time is running out.
Christian Talk Therapy is a place where healing happens. We understand how hard it can be to talk about your personal issues, but it's much harder to live with emotional pain, frustration, and sadness. God wants you to be free. The Bible instructs us to bear one another's burdens, and at Christian Talk Therapy, that's what we do. Call today to schedule your first individual session with a Christian therapist. 215-375-7879, extension 44. We keep our rates affordable so you can get the help you need. Call today, 215-375-7879, extension 44. If you would like more information, please visit our website at christiantalktherapy.com. Christian Talk Therapy, a place where healing happens.
I hear the Spirit say that it's your time. The waiting is over. Walk into your season.
Dayspring Counseling Services provides individual and group counseling services to adults, children, and couples. If you're feeling down, tired, depressed, if you struggle with anxiety or just stress, if it seems as though you're just coping with loss after loss, and if you're having trouble in your relationships and within your family, call one of our therapists today and set up an appointment. It may be helpful to you and your loved ones to seek help. Dayspring Counseling Services has locations in Bala Cynwyd, Exton, and Paoli, and our therapists can assist you with various problems in your life. Contact us today on the web at www.dayspringpa.com. Again, www.dayspringpa.com, or call us at 610-363-2088. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others.
And we are back. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. If you're just joining us, I am Sophia Avery, a Christian therapist and owner of Christian Talk Therapy, and my co-host is Dr. Suzette Sims, a licensed psychologist and owner of Dayspring Counseling Services. If you'd like to make an appointment with either of us, please visit our websites at dayspringpa.com or christiantalktherapy.com. Today we're discussing emotional eating. Dr. Suzette, why do we do it? Why do we eat emotions? Why do we emotionally eat?
Well, a lot of times the reason why we do it is because, in my opinion, we have a difficult time tolerating feeling distressed. We need a way to deal with that feeling right away because we don't like prolonged periods of time of feeling bad. I mean, think about it. How often, when you're feeling upset about something, do you just kind of let yourself feel it? Or do you try to just get rid of it and push it away as fast as you can? I know a lot of people really do try to, they say, well, you know what, I'm feeling upset and I need to do something about it. And they don't really take the time to really sit with it and explore what is the best way to deal with it. And the other thing is people don't always recognize what it is they're actually feeling. Like, I think, what you were talking about as far as how we use food to describe our emotions, we don't always use words to describe our emotions. A lot of times people have trouble accurately labeling what it is they actually feel. And so in turn, different feelings get rolled up into being one particular feeling. Like, for example, if any of you are out there and you're listening, think about that feeling that you feel most often. Is there a certain feeling that you usually feel? And how is it that every situation you encounter usually ends up with you feeling that same feeling? It's because you go back to that same feeling that you're used to feeling, or that one feeling that you think you're really good at being able to handle. I know for a lot of people that I've worked with, they experience this feeling of anger quite often. And no matter what happens, there's this description of, well, that made me angry. But when you explore those feelings more, sometimes anger is as a result of feeling disappointed, or feeling hurt, or feeling sad, or feeling vulnerable. But instead, it's easier to be angry because that gives you more power and it makes you feel more powerful. So, but it's that inability to tolerate feeling disappointed, or feeling hurt, or feeling sad. And I think that's why a lot of people do it. And the other part, though, is related to our thoughts. The thoughts come first, or at least in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the type of therapy that I practice as a psychologist at Dayspring. I teach people how their thought life is completely related to how it is that they feel. And so if you're thinking a particular thought, if you're thinking about how bad your day went, or if you're thinking about how messed up your relationships are, well, then you're going to end up having this certain feeling about it, and then you're going to look for a way to try to deal with that feeling through a certain behavior, and food or self-soothing then becomes that behavior. So it's all related.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind. The thoughts come first. I consider emotional eating a way of self-medicating, as I said earlier. And many of us self-medicate in many different ways. Overeating is one. But then you have shopping, you have going to church, serving in many, many different ministries, exercising, alcohol, working a lot, are all ways of self-medicating. And what they do is distract you from what you're feeling. So what we want to do is get you comfortable with what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. For example, a lot of my clients, when they come in, it's like, oh, I'm just tired. Miss Sophia, I'm tired. And I give them the list of feeling words, like, okay, check off everything that you're feeling. I have had people check off as many as 30 different emotions. So, of course, you're tired. If you're trying to manage 30 different emotions, of course.
And if you don't know that they're there.
Right. Mm-hmm. And don't have words to articulate them, certainly. It's overwhelming, and you're going to be tired trying to carry that around. What's the most convenient thing? Grab a piece of chocolate cake. It makes you feel good because there's some sugars in there, and the sugars, do nice things to your brain and make you happy, and maybe even remind you of a happy time, like a birthday when you had birthday cake. That's my favorite. Birthday cake is my favorite. But when you eat sugars or other things that produce a sugar in your body, it can give you a sense of euphoria. So sometimes eating something is a way of making yourself feel good right away, at least feel a little bit better, specifically if you are feeling a lot of things and you don't know how to express them.
Right. And that's really true, is that certain foods do produce different reactions in your body. There's different things called biochemical changes in your body. But before I talk about that, I just want to encourage you guys, as you're out there listening and you're driving in your car, you're listening to us here on the radio, give us a call and let us know, is there something that you find yourself struggling with emotionally and you use food as a way to cope? Are you looking for some other ways to deal with it other than using food to soothe yourself? Call us at 610-277-9449. That's 610-277-9449. Or in Jersey and Delaware, call us at 1-800-887-9627, 1-800-887-9627. Share with us whether or not you struggle with something. We want to be able to help you. You can even call in and ask us anything related to what we talked about last week when we talked about faith versus fear, or if you're struggling with happiness or accepting your reality, or if you're even struggling with forgiveness, just some of the things that we've talked about, you can give us a call and we are here to help you. The other thing that I want to ask you is there a certain time of day that you do find yourself craving a particular thing? Is there a certain time of day that you do notice yourself in that pattern of soothing yourself through food? Call us and let us know. 610 1-800-277-9449 or 1-800-887-9627. And different foods will produce different reactions in your body. So, Sister Sophia has talked about chocolate. Well, chocolate is shown to increase different levels of serotonin. And serotonin is this neurotransmitter in your brain that we all walk around with. And it is responsible for enhancing your mood. And so if you're eating chocolate, you are increasing those levels of serotonin in your brain, which then makes you feel better. You might feel more excited or alert as a result of eating chocolate because chocolate has caffeine in it. And chocolate raises your blood sugar. So here are all these physical changes that actually are happening. It's not just in your head. So you really do get physically soothed as a result of eating it, but it's your intention of it. Is that your plan? Is your plan, I am going to eat it because I am looking for this emotional outcome? And if that is the case, then you are using food as a way to deal with your emotions. The other reason why we use food a lot of times is, we can use celebrations as a reason to use food. And so it might not be that you're soothing yourself, but maybe you're using food because you're saying, well, it's my graduation, right? We got graduations, proms coming up. I got a reason to eat this because it's graduation. It's my birthday. So you use food as a way to help you express your emotion. So it might not be soothing yourself, but it could be a way of saying, hey, I feel good. And we're conditioned to do that just from our families. And, Sophia talked about your childhood. A lot of times comfort foods are associated with our childhood. I can remember my mom used to, when I got a good report card, we got to pick whatever we wanted from the supermarket. And it was the biggest deal because we had no money. I mean, we were so poor and we had no money. And so to be able to pick something from the supermarket that wasn't homemade, I mean, we couldn't even get frozen pizza was a big deal. I didn't have takeout pizza until I was in high school. I kid you not. So anyway, I would get to pick these Reese cups, and I remember it would fill me with such joy, and I was like, yes, I was so excited, and I could still visualize it in my head, getting it off of the shelf. So there is an emotional component that is related to food, and for me, that component was, well, you did a great thing, so that is now a celebration. That is something now you are gifted by, or it's a reward for something. And so I notice in my own life, I'm rewarded as a result, or I use rewards as a way to give myself permission to maybe eat certain things. So I do notice that within myself.
And I think that's fairly common. And what we have to do is keep in mind there's a balance. There's a difference between some reward for a job well done or something and emotional eating. And we have to be careful not to just lump it all into emotional eating. If you're going through something stressful or difficult, good or bad, then or significant change in your life, you are more prone to emotionally eat. If you have things that have happened in your childhood that you never dealt with, you are more prone to emotionally eat. Everything, however, is not emotional eating, so don't get it twisted. Everything isn't, but you want to just be aware of how you're feeling when you're eating. And if you're using food to make you feel better, where it might be better to do something else, like if you're feeling alone or lonely and you pick up a McDonald's hamburger with some fries and a chocolate shake, and that might be a cue. Maybe I'm emotional eating, right? Give us a call if you have a comment or a question. 610-277-9449 in New Jersey, Delaware, or anywhere else. 800-887-9627. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion on emotional eating. Be right back.
Do you ever feel empty, up one day and down the next? Do you ever do something to feel better that you later regret? Well, if so, Dayspring Counseling has a group for you. The DBT Skills Group will teach you how to manage your emotions, be more assertive, communicate effectively, and improve your relationships. Beginning June 11th, the group will be held in the Bala Cynwyd location, and it will run on Tuesdays from 6 to 7:45 p.m. Call Dayspring at 610-363-2787 610-363-2040. Again, 610-363-2040, and let us know if you're interested. You can also find us on the web at dayspringpa.com. dayspringpa.com. Contact us and you can learn skills that lead to a better life.
You're getting married? Congratulations! While planning your wedding, invest some time in preparing for marriage. Christian Talk Therapy's premarital counseling series consists of 5 2-hour sessions designed to give you the truth about marriage, show you the biblical plan for marriage, and teach you how to work the plan. Our premarital counseling series is different from what you might get from your pastor or church. We tailor your premarital counseling sessions to address the specific needs of your relationship. Christian Talk Therapy explains what to expect in marriage, identify areas that may be a challenge in your marriage, and give you the tools necessary to build a solid marriage with a Christ-centered foundation. At the end of the series, you'll receive a certificate of completion. Call today to schedule your free consultation, 215-375-7879, extension 44, or visit our website, christiantalktherapy.com, for more information. While planning your wedding, be sure to invest in your marriage.
You are listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. And if you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Suzette Sims, licensed psychologist with Dayspring Counseling Services. And I'm co-hosting with Sister Sophia Avery, Christian therapist and owner of Christian Talk Therapy. And we are talking about emotional eating. And right now we have Shirley calling in on the line. Hi, Shirley. How you doing?
Hi.
Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia.
Thanks
Praise
for
the Lord,
calling.
Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. You all definitely have an awesome subject today.
Well, thank you.
Should be many, many calls. I'm definitely an emotional eater.
Okay.
Have struggled with weight for years. But then I had, a few years ago, I had a knee replacement, and I started, of course, working on my weight so that helped myself heal better. But as a child of God, often now when I find myself just walking down the street and I'm hungry and you're going past the stores and the many different restaurants that are offering you like to come in, I remember that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Also, the fact that the many different diets and whatever I've been on, they're always telling you about having the proper food in your home that you need to eat so you're not eating those extra things, that extra chocolate and ice cream. And so that's how I've just been recently combating those temptations. My feelings are telling me go, to the store and get this. And I'm like, no, I have everything in the house I need to eat, and to stay. When I've lost 44 pounds within the last so many months. So,
amen. And that's
so
a blessing. That's a blessing that you realize that there was an emotional component to your weight and weight loss. And in dealing with that, you were able to successfully, hopefully, deal with those emotions, and then the weight just probably left as a result of that. Like, being able to say no to yourself when you walk by that restaurant and that spaghetti with meatballs is calling you in that Italian restaurant with that garlic bread.
Yes, indeed.
And you got your salad at home that you made fresh. It being able to say no and set boundaries on yourself and keep them is important. Yes.
And also recognizing, too, that when I'm just tired and sleepy, so I found that if I need to go to bed earlier to combat that feeling of you want to eat instead of, the real emotion is that you're sleeping, I've started working with that also. Then, maybe it's only 9 o'clock or 9:30. I'm used to going to bed early, but I'm really tired, and I don't want to eat just to stay up to do something else. So it's a daily struggle. It's just like being a child of God. It's something that we have to work on every day.
Exactly. And you know what, Shirley, I think, one of the key things that you said for everybody to pay attention to is you have in your head what it is God tells you. And the thing that you remember is that you can do anything through Christ and that he strengthens you. And that's really going to be the key to fighting off those thoughts that you're talking about. We have to be able to challenge ourselves, but we also have to be able to challenge ourselves on something that we can stand on. And just in reading through the Bible, one verse stuck out for me, and it's 1 Corinthians 10:13. And I think it's directly related to emotional eating. And it says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. And I think that really strikes true when we think about these thoughts and this urge, like you said, it's like this feeling, and it just kind of overcomes you. Yeah. But that is a temptation, and God is telling us through the Bible that He equips us with the ability to overcome that. But if we're not incorporating what God says to us, we're not going to feel as powerful, and we might not believe it. But if you believe God and you believe what He says is true, then you can stand on what He says in the Bible. So I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that with us, and just tuning us into the fact that we all have to remember what it is that God says, and that will help us overcome those temptations we have.
Amen. So thank you, Shirley, and praise God. You had some weight loss as a result. And I wanted to say I lost some weight earlier last year too, been maintaining it. And even with the emotional eating, once you're aware of the fact that you do eat when your emotions are disturbed, or when you are tired or hungry or feeling alone, it's better to go ahead and deal with that issue. Mm-hmm. Like if you're feeling alone and lonely, get you some counseling. Call and get you some counseling. Dr. Suzette and I both are available to counsel you, and counseling is perfect for dealing with those feelings of being alone and lonely, mm-hmm. or if you're depressed or you're tired, air quotations, and tired being one thing that encompasses a whole lot of other emotions. Counseling has the purpose of helping you get to the root of those issues.
Right, that's right.
So we want to be able to, sometimes we're forced into a situation such as our caller Shirley was, where she had to lose some weight as a result of a medical condition. We don't want to be forced into situations. We want to deal with them up front. So get you some counseling.
Mm-hmm. And you can give me a call. You can call me at Dayspring Counseling Services at 610-363-2040. That's 610-363-2040. You can give us a call, and we can meet with you, and we can figure out, is it a self-soothing issue? Is it an emotional issue? Could it possibly be a spiritual issue? Are you struggling with spiritual depletion or spiritual deprivation, which is often what it's called? And is there something that's missing that you can start working on and focusing on to help you deal with your emotions?
Exactly. And I do have a little pet peeve when it comes to emotional eating. A lot of my clients who are heavy and what the society would consider to be obese have been through severely traumatic things in their childhood and throughout their life. And I got an issue. With people looking at it and saying, well, you just need to stop eating, and you just need to pay attention to your body and take care of your body. But you don't know what people have been through. So if you see somebody, and I got a little attitude right now, I'm going to get it in check though, but if you see somebody 250, 350, 400 or 500 pounds, be careful how you judge them, because you don't know what they've been through. And if you sit down and talk to them for a second, you can't carry the cross that they have carried, especially if you see children. If you see children who have that amount of weight, either they're going through something that is unspoken, or their parents have gone through something that is unspoken. Mm-hmm. Like I had a relative whose mother was very, 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 very small, but she had a drug problem, and her father had a drug problem, and both she and her sister were very, very large children. And if anybody had taken a second to say, what in the world is happening here, we would have been able to help them in a way that would have allowed them to avoid some pain. But nobody pays attention, right? If you see somebody, a child especially, who is large, and by large, I mean maybe 10 years old, 150, 250 pounds. It's something going on in that child's life. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, oh, they need to exercise or they need to work. It's something going on. Don't minimize people's pain by contributing it to just eat too much.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, we have Shirley back on the line. Unfortunately, Shirley, your call dropped, so sorry about that, but you had something else that you wanted to share with us.
Yes, I just wanted to express one other thing that I have been working on this year. We were talking about comfort foods and how they make you feel. I started thinking about if I eat it now and then how disappointed we are later on because we put on some weight and can't, get into certain clothes and things like that. So I started doing it the opposite. It's better to feel a little uncomfortable at the very beginning and don't eat these things and then feel satisfied later on when you can get into a smaller size because you didn't go by your feelings and you did the right thing.
Wow, that is such a great insight. I'm so glad that you called back with that because that's true. We look for a temporary way to deal with the pain that we feel, and we use food as a way to do that. And then what happens on the back end is now we're stuck with the guilt feelings and the upset at ourselves and the anger at ourselves for having used the food in the first place. So I appreciate so much that you called in with that.
I appreciate you, ladies. God bless you.
God bless you. And I just wanted to point one thing out, Shirley, just because you kind of touched on it. We have to be careful not to be overly concerned with what we eat. I think at some point for Americans, we are so consumed with what we eat, how much we eat, when we eat, that it becomes almost an idol. We have to be careful. If you think more about your food and exercising than you do about God, that's another sign that you might be self-medicating with nutrition or health or something like that, exercise that is, again, taking your attention away from God. So we have to be careful. But I would say, for those of you who are interested in finding out if you're emotional eaters, pick your favorite thing and then plan out your meals each week and put that favorite thing in your plan. And see, each day, if you plan your meals, can you stick to that plan? If you have to get that brownie with vanilla ice cream and chocolate syrup and you can't resist it, you might be emotional eating.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to say is I just want to pair what you said with what God says just in the Bible as far as like the foods that we eat. And 1 Corinthians 6:13 or 6:12-13 talks about how food's for the stomach and the stomach is for foods, but God will destroy it and them. Your body is for the Lord and the Lord for the body. So the Bible is telling us loud and clear that our bodies were created for the Lord. And so we do want to take care of them, and we do want to be able to find a way to manage what's going on in our lives in a spiritual way. And when we come back in a little bit, we're going to talk more about what it is that God says. But in the meantime, give us a call. Let us know if you are struggling with an emotional issue that we can help you with, that you tend to use food for. How can we guide you? How can we direct you? Also, similarly, if you have overcome this issue of emotional eating, give us a call and let us know how you did it. What tools did you use to replace the coping skill of food that you may have used in the past? Our call-in number is 610-277-9449. That's 610-277-9449. Or in Jersey and Delaware, call us at 1-800-887-9627. And you're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. Do you have a child or relative preparing for their junior or senior prom this year? If so, wouldn't you like to have photos that would last a lifetime of that event? While you're shopping for your daughter's dress and shoes or your son's suit, while you're preparing the menu and booking their limo reservations, why not consider having a professional photographer photograph that special day? With TrueVine Photography's pre-prom packages, you'll be able to recall that day weeks, months, and even years from now with one of their professional hardback photo albums. But be sure to order more than one so you'll be able to one day hand that over to your child. Please contact Sean Sims with TrueVine Photography at 610-428-6469. That's 610-428-6469. Or contact him at TrueVinePhoto.com. Again, TrueVinePhoto.com to reserve your date. Please hurry, time is running out.
Marriage can be difficult.
If you're not happy, don't wait until it's too late. Get counseling. Many couples try to work things out themselves. Not the best idea, because you don't know what you don't know. Call us at Christian Talk Therapy and invest in your marriage. Stop the suffering. Don't wait until it's too late. Call today to make your appointment for marriage counseling. And if your spouse won't come, you can come alone, and with God's help, we can help you make changes to improve your marriage. Make your appointment for marriage counseling today. Call 215-375-7879, extension 44, or make your appointment online at ChristianTalkTherapy.com. Don't wait until it's too late.
Are you feeling down, tired, or depressed? Do you feel stressed or anxious? Does it seem as though you are coping with loss after loss? Dayspring Counseling Services can help. If you have thought counseling might help you or someone you care about, contact Dayspring Counseling Services at www.dayspringpa.com. That's dayspringpa.com. Or you can call us at 610-363-2088 and we can get in contact with you. Don't wait another day to get help. With locations in Bala Cynwyd, Exton, and Paoli, our therapists can assist you with various problems in your life. Contact us today on the web at dayspringpa.com or at 610-363-2088. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others.
And we are back. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. Today we're talking about emotional eating. If you have a comment or question, please feel free to give us a call at 610-277-9449 in New Jersey and Delaware, or anywhere else, 1-800-887-9627. If you are near a computer, you can also leave us a message on Facebook at facebook.com/Philly Talk Show. Okay, so we're talking about emotional eating. Dr. Suzette?
One of the things that I just wanted to bring up to everyone as we talk about just emotional eating and then our spiritual lives is that when you think about it, Satan used the temptation of food to usher sin into the world. Think about it. What did he do? He talked to Eve about this apple, right? And it was food, and he's telling her how good it's going to be. And how it's going to make her feel. She's going to know everything. She's going to feel great. And I think that is so symbolic of how failing to take control over something that a lot of times seems like really small can lead to a really big consequence. And so when we think about Eve, just failing for her to have self-control over that feeling of what she felt and taking that apple and giving into that desire to have all those things that he was tempting her with really led to a really big problem. And so if you are out there struggling with something, if you have experienced abuse of some type, if you have experienced a trauma, if you have experienced just that feeling of loneliness that we were talking about, or depression or sadness, and that little voice is saying to you, well, just eat that, you're going to feel so much better. This is going to help take it away for you. And the other thing is it's silent. Nobody else sees it, you know, and that's the other way you can tell if you're an emotional eater. Do you tend to eat certain things when nobody else is around? Whereas if you were in a room full of people, you wouldn't touch it. That can also clue you in as to whether or not you're using food as a way to deal with your emotions. So spiritually speaking, Satan has a lot to do with how it is our thoughts sort of trick us into believing that a certain thing is gonna be helpful for us, when in fact it might not be helpful for us, because it just helps us in keeping the pain silent and hidden, and nobody knows about it. But instead, what tends to happen is then we outwardly show that we're in pain for however it is that depending on the emotional eating habits, outwardly we're showing that we're in pain. but we're not ever speaking up about it or really communicating about it. And it's going to be really important to reach out for counseling if you do find yourself with just this silent thing that you're struggling with and you're really feeling ashamed and not wanting to let anybody know about it.
Right. And I think we have to keep our perspective and be aware of things. Sometimes, I dealt with a lot of people in counseling, and some who are my Facebook friends, God bless them, and have been successful in moving from emotional eating and kind of defeating it by moving into like exercising or going to the gym or running, as if exercise and going to the gym and running are a substitute for dealing with their emotions. And they are not. They are more socially acceptable way of dealing with emotions, but basically it's the same thing. You're self-medicating in a different way. So yes, you might lose weight, you might physically look better, but basically it's the same thing. If you were an emotional eater, you still are doing something with your emotions. It's just not eating anymore. So really, it's no substitute for that counseling, because I'm going to tell you what, once you get in shape and you lose that weight, whatever you were using, whatever you were self-medicating about, whatever those emotions were, they will come back and knock you in the head just like they were before. So we just have to be sure not to switch from emotional eating to some other type of self-medicating that soothes you or distracts you or that's more socially acceptable, but still has the same effect of helping you to ignore your emotions.
Right. Yeah. And we also want to keep in mind that, you talked about running and, exercising, which are really good things, because what God tells us is that our bodies are our temple of the Holy Spirit, and that we glorify God in through our bodies. And so, we want to be sure that we take care of our bodies through the running and exercise and such. But if you're doing it in an excessive way in order to manage what you're feeling, then that it's not necessarily what God's calling you to do, and that He wants you to take refuge in Him. And, the Bible talks about the fruits of the Spirit, right? And one of the fruits of the Spirit is the idea of the self-control. And when you think about emotional eating, a lot of that has to do with that sense of self-control, being able to control that emotional part and not just doing something just because you feel it. Like, it's about being more intentional, like Sophia was mentioning earlier, intentionally put into your diet plan, or when I say diet, I don't mean like diet like restricting, I just mean like what you eat during the week. Put in your plan what it is you want to have. So that way you are consciously making a decision about what you're going to eat, rather than allowing your feeling to drive you into doing it. And one of the things that has stood out for me just in, thinking about the show and thinking about, what it is that God tells us, is this idea of dying to ourselves. And it's a really complicated thing, for me to even wrap my brain around it, but I wanted to mention it because it's something that I just feel like needs to be mentioned. And the idea is of dying to yourself, like recognizing that you are in the flesh, but at some level you have to not give in to the flesh. And Jesus talked about that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And Jesus talked about just that sense of how when you die to yourself, that's basically when you live, right? So to lose your life is to actually, I'm trying to think of the ways, like whoever wants to save his life will lose it, right? So that idea of giving up that physical sense, giving up that feeling of like what is in the flesh, and those emotions are coming out of the flesh, but the only way you can really get to that is to get to that spiritual place and getting in touch with spiritually how you are relating to God and not necessarily with the world. And I know what I'm saying might be a little, I don't know, kind of out there, but I just really want you to think about that sometimes you don't want to give in, or not sometimes, a lot of times you don't want to give in to the flesh and what the flesh is telling you to do, because God calls us to a different purpose than just to live in the flesh, but instead He wants us to live through the Spirit.
Okay. And we have a caller on line 1. Annette, hi, you're listening to How's That Working For You with Sister Sophia. How are you?
Well, I'm very happy to hear you two sisters. I know it's by no accident that I found you. I was channel surfing on my little radio, and I heard you for the first time one day last week. And but I really needed somebody like you to talk with. I'm 62, and I've had a tremendous amount of loss in my family. I'm the only remaining person in my family right now, my immediate family.
Okay.
And I just realized my last sibling in February.
Mm-hmm.
I mean March. Quite by surprise. And he left an incredible mess. We were not really close. And there's an incredible amount of issues regarding his estate. And there's nobody really to assist me. I'm just kind of, I don't know if I have emotional eating or not, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know what things are like. When you mentioned to talk about your favorite food, write it down. I say, oh goodness, everything I eat is my favorite food. So, but I'm just overwhelmed right now, and I know the Lord is walking me through things, but I feel so abandoned.
Yeah.
Everyone's gone. My family, my siblings all died younger than me, in their 30s. One was 19, and my last one was, I think he was 60, but I'm just overwhelmed, and I feel alone.
I understand.
I've gotten past the anger part. I'm just overwhelmed with his property, and just, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know who to trust.
Okay.
And I'm just, I thank God that I found you on the radio.
Amen. We thank God for bringing you and bringing you to this place. Probably we're going to need to talk to you offline. I think some grief counseling would be in line for what you're going through, as well as
absolutely, yes,
have a need to establish some support systems and maybe get some professionals to help you with the other things with the estate. So if you could hold on, we'll get your number, and
okay.
And we'll continue to talk to you after the show. Is that okay?
Oh, that's great.
Okay, hold the line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we just want to give some homework for our listeners on measuring your eating and determining whether or not you are self-medicating with food or emotional eating. I'd say do this for a week. Sit down today and plan out your meals for every day for the coming 7 days. Plan them out, put in your little favorite foods on some days, and I want to see if you can stick to it. If you are able to stick to your plan, you're well on your way to determining whether or not you use food as a way of medicating yourself. If you are not able to stick to your plan, or you can't even think about not eating whatever you want to eat whenever you want to eat it, I think you might need to call for counseling. So you got ChristianTalkTherapy.com for Sister Sophia, and Dayspring Counseling, DayspringPA.com for Dr. Suzette. Either one of us can help you work through some of the issues. For some of you, you might not even be able to attempt. You might not even be able to attempt to control your eating. And that might be because your emotional pain is too heavy. So we might need to work through some things before you're able to exercise self-control over your food.
The other thing that I just want to point out as you're doing that, just from a food standpoint, is, figure out whether or not you can tolerate that hungry feeling and finding a resolution to it. Like when you find yourself reaching for that snack that you just typically go to when you're watching TV or when your favorite show comes on, right? Write down, before you eat it, write down, what am I feeling right now? And see if you can come up with a list of at least 5 different feeling words. What are you feeling? And see whether or not hunger is one of them. And if hunger is not one of them, you're probably struggling with an emotional issue. And at that point, I would encourage you to go and journal, write it down. And then, like Sophia said, seek some professional support. Seek somebody out that can help you deal with those emotions that are then leading you to want and go and have that snack.
Be blessed.
Thank you for joining us today. The information we discussed today is not a substitute for professional counseling. If you'd like to talk to a professional counselor, you can contact us at 215-375-7879, extension 11. That's 215-375-7879, extension 11.
Or you can visit Sister Sophia at ChristianTalkTherapy.com. That's ChristianTalkTherapy.com.
And you can also reach Dr. Suzette at DayspringPA.com. That's DayspringPA.com. Or find us on Facebook at How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia.
Join us next week on How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia on Fridays at 1 p.m. on Gospel Highway 11.
Serving the tri-state with the best in gospel music for more than 30 years. From precious memories to the music of today, yeah, we got it all. Gospel Highway 11, WNAP Norristown, Philadelphia.